Dentistry and General Radio Network presents
the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera. In this episode,
welcome to the Independent Dental Practice, Dr. Sonny Spera. Today our guest, Dr. Sonya Wintzell. And we're going to talk to her about her journey, but she's going to cover really a great pathway from an associateship to a partnership to ownership and how she did it. And one thing you will find is that she is crystal clear in her communication. And I'm going to say this on air because off air she said this is out of her comfort zone. You will never know it listening to her speak. If you enjoy it, as always, please click like, share it with your friends, subscribe, leave a review, you name it. It will help us grow this podcast and get it out to more people and hopefully positively impact more dental professional lives. If you don't like it, well, please contact me directly, sonnyspera@gmail.com or independentdentalpractice@gmail.com. Or you can text or call me at 607-624-2962. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy the show.
Dr. Sonya Wintzell. Her journey from associate to partner to owner. A discussion with Dr. Sonny Spera.
Hi, welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast, Dr. Sonny Spera. Today, my guest is Dr. Sonya Wintzell. Did I say that right?
You did.
And you can hear that little Southern charm accent. So we're going to get to know Dr. Wintzell. So let me give you a little bit of background. He is the owner and dentist of Dental Professionals of Whitesburg in Huntsville, Alabama from June 1999 to currently. Delivers comprehensive and cosmetic dentistry, high quality, comfortable atmosphere, provides leadership through specialized training and through leading as an example. Education, she went to Judson College in Marion, Alabama, and then she went to dental school at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. So she's a member of multiple academies, Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, General Dentistry, ADA, International Congress of Oral Implantologists, Organization of Conscious Sedation. So you could tell that she's doing a lot of great dentistry. Served as a teacher for Sisters and Servants for 5 years. Community passport member at Judson College, graduate of Leadership Huntsville Focus class of 38. Oh my. Dentist for Davidson Farms Girls Homes. All right. Welcome. Sonya, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful day in Huntsville, so I'm a little grainy in my voice. We've got pollen everywhere. It's spring, but it's beautiful.
It's some type of allergy thing going on. So I feel you. That's my struggles as well. So let's talk. So you went to Judson College, but growing up, tell us a little bit about the environment you grew up in.
That's interesting. I still say my parents are a success story. My mother grew up on a farm in rural Alabama, got married when she was 15. My father was 19, and it was one less mouth to feed. And so my grandfather's like, yeah, you can have her. And so they got married. I came along about a year and a half later. So very young parents.
Oh my.
And interesting. They were amazing parents. But I don't know if my father had a little rough upbringing. And in those situations, you can take two paths. He took the better path. And so he became a success in and of itself. He worked for the Alabama Corps of Engineers. And so he really instilled early on with me the ability to create your own path, no matter what your history is.
There you go.
You got to remember, I'm at that age where right now, I think the dental schools are graduating probably over 50% females. When I was in dental school, it wasn't that way. And so it was an interesting path, but my father just said, you know what you do, you can do this. And that led to a lot of success in my life. Judson College was an all-girls school. In fact, I laugh, it was an all-girl Baptist school in the middle of nowhere. And so I can remember the first time visiting this school, I was in the car with my father and I said, I get it. You want me to go here because you are worried about me at a major university and what will happen. And I didn't know if I'd commit, but I ended up loving it there. It was a great environment for me. And someone asked me one time about dental school and how it felt to be immersed with, at that time, a male-dominated career. And I never really felt slighted by the males, but I think it was my mindset. My mindset was always, I've earned my way here just like they have. and I can do this. So because of that, I never felt like there was this female male thing. And so that set me on a good path there.
Like you said, it's a male dominated profession. Who brought that up to you at first? And then when did you start to even think about that?
It was actually years later, it was an article for a local magazine,
Oh,
and
wow.
they were doing a women's edition. And I said, I really never felt like there was this pull to male versus female. I would go to courses, and obviously, yes, you were one of few. And I have heard women talk about, and this is true, you go to a trade show, and it's interesting. My husband, who's not a dentist, but he'll go to trade shows with me because he's a part of the business. A lot of times the sales rep will approach him, and he's so funny about that. He's just, listen, dude, wrong guy. You need to talk to her. I don't make the decisions. I just write out checks for her. And so that's the only area that I feel it in. But when I'm in courses with other dentists, I don't feel that male female pull at all.
Okay, so who are some of your leaders slash role models at that point
At
before you
that,
graduate?
before I graduated, it was just my colleagues in school or my teachers in school. And at UAB, we had a pretty big research connection there, but I connected with a lot of my professors. In fact, one of my professors helped get my position at what's currently my business, Dr. Jean O'Neill. She was a prosthodontist, amazing woman. You think I have an accent? Oh my goodness. She had the perfect Southern accent, bright as can be. And she really early on noticed something in me that maybe I didn't even know I had. And so when one of her colleagues came up to her and said, hey, there's this job position in Huntsville, she said, you need to look into this. This is for you. And part of it was that I was going to be busy from the day I started, which is different. Some dentists get out and it's a little slower to their career path. And she said, this is not how it's going to be. You're going to be busy from day one, but you can do it. You're ready for it. And so that was interesting.
How did she know? What was the
He
connection
was
from?
my professor, one of my professors in school.
She, so she was a professor who had her private practice as well.
Exactly.
Okay, so how much time did she work in the school versus in her practice?
I think she was probably 75% in the school. I
Oh,
mean, she
wow.
was very hands-on.
So she has pretty large bandwidth then. She can handle a
Yes,
lot of things. Okay,
absolutely.
that's great. I think that to me, the fast path to success is mentors, help, coaches, role models, whoever it is that you can model some things after. And I think you can maybe benefit from not having to make all your own mistakes, right? Along that way.
Definitely for anybody who is just starting their career, it's so important to not hole up on your own. I know I felt very well educated and ready to start my career, but now looking back, there was so much I didn't know. And so it's so important to look for those mentors, whether it's a dentist down the street. Most of the dentists I know, I'm a dentist. I love my colleagues. I speak up for my colleagues. For the majority of dentists, we're good people and we're wanting to do the right thing.
Correct.
Look for
80-20
that.
rule. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look for that dentist and just say, hey, can we have lunch once a month? I guarantee you they would love to pour into you, but look for someone, whether it's through that or through some high quality CE, something that really gets you vested in other people. And that way you can start learning how to avoid certain road pitfalls and things like that
Yeah,
early on.
that's it. When did this doctor meet you?
She was part of dental school, probably my second through the fourth year. And so she saw my work, she saw my work ethic, and that was a big part of if she was a tough bird, some of the students avoided her.
We had one
I,
of those teachers. They were the
I,
best.
yeah, I was one of those that went, she's tough for a reason. Dig in. Let's see what she's going to teach you. And she did. She took me under her wing and she really taught me a lot.
Which is also why she probably said you're going to start busy
Yeah,
because this is not for wimps.
that's right. Exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. So I'm guessing then when you're graduating, you're not really looking at a bunch of things. You've almost grown into this position, correct?
Exactly. So I knew my senior year, the owner of the practice that I own now, she actually came to UAB and we interviewed. And she interviewed several students. It was a big deal. You can imagine all these students, none of us have a job at this point.
Yeah.
Some of them, they were going to their father's practice, some were starting their own. They had some path, but the majority had no path. DSOs were not around. It wasn't like you knew you could just get out and get a job. We were either you start your own practice or you find an associateship. Those were your major paths. And so we all interviewed, and it was so interesting the takeaway from there were three of us that interviewed and how we all felt after the interviews. I came away from it going, wow, what an opportunity. Was dating someone from South Alabama. This was in North Alabama. A little bit of a problem, but we'll see. And the others came away scared to death. And I think some of that was my preparation through my professor. She had prepared me, and I just felt ready to do the dentistry. And the other two are great dentists. They're wonderful dentists, but it was just a different mindset, I think. I was ready to get busy. And it became very apparent during the interview that we had you say you clicked. We clicked, and she offered me the position, and never knew I'd be here this many years later. It was a 3-year associateship. My professor set up the interview with the dentist that owned the business.
Okay. So now this is a new entity, and you've obviously gotten probably pretty good recommendation verbally from the professor.
Absolutely.
So you are starting off, but if you think about it, what you said was really just rings true now. People didn't want to work with that professor. I absorbed the challenge. People went for the interview. They were scared. I absorbed it. So that what that professor saw in you, now this doctor in this office is going to see in you. So
Right.
talk about what it looked like on day one. Were you busy? Were you overwhelmed? What was the environment?
Scared to death. Scared to death. And Sonny, I never thought of it that way, but you're right. But I was scared to death. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anyone. I remember pulling into the parking lot going, oh my gosh, I've only felt this way one other time, and it's with my first baby. And I remember when they put me in the car after I delivered the baby and going, they just gave me this baby. What am I supposed to do with this? They didn't give me a manual. What? Come on, I don't know what to do here. Felt the same way when I pulled up in the parking lot. And interesting enough, the first day the schedule was pretty good. I mean, there were patient gap, but boy, I think it was one weekend, it was patient, 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 patient. And I can remember the doctor coming up to me and saying, now, if it gets overwhelming, let us know. We'll back down, we'll cushion some things. But I just stuck my head in and went for it, because another added pressure was this practice is fee for service and had always been fee for service. And one of their tenets was you don't keep patients waiting. I mean, to be fee for service, you've got to have certain customer service standards that are a little bit above your normal dental office. And that was one of them. We value our patients' time. And so it just added that little bit of pressure, but I just had to get in there and do the dentistry. And
did they put you, here's your schedule, or did you have a doctor, a mentor, coach, someone nearby? If something comes up, you could better reference to them.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Bruce, who is the original dentist that I bought the practice from, she was always here, always here. So if I ever got into a pickle or even a situation where I just didn't know how to word things, in fact, that first week, I will say one of the things she asked me to do was stand outside her room and listen to her conversations.
Best thing you could do. Best thing any dentist can do.
I took notes. I was standing out there listening because she wanted to make sure, number one, that I was comfortable with conversations, but she also wanted to make sure the care to the patients, it was seamless. She was just there to mentor me along the way. They did start with easier procedures. They shielded difficult patients away from me. Basic crown and bridge, fillings, a lot of fillings, a lot of fillings.
Sure.
And that was the path.
Okay, so you have that. So that now I hope everybody picked up when Dr. Wintzell, Sonya mentions she used the word she. So the owner was a female owner, right? So talk a little bit now about, because we talked off air.
Yeah.
What's the history of this practice? Because not a lot of females that are graduating in these times are going to work in female-run businesses. They're going to work for the old hat, we'll call it.
So I'm so proud of our history. So I say I've been here for 26 years. but this business has been in business for 50 years, all female owned. The first female dentist in Huntsville, Alabama started this practice, Dr. Hilda Lee. And she was she's such a pioneer. Number one, she was the only female in her class. She was the only one, and she came back to her hometown, started the practice, and early on decided, I'm not going to sign up for insurance. Now, this was to me when insurance wasn't, can I say the devil that it is now? I mean,
You just did, but yeah, of course you can.
I just did. I mean, but it really wasn't.
No,
But
no,
she,
it was viewed as a very, very positive thing because it
right,
was somewhat new.
but she didn't like having a contracted relationship with an outside entity. I mean,
Way ahead of her time. She's
way
ahead of her time.
ahead of her time.
Way ahead of her time.
She did not like that. And she was like, they know nothing about my patient.
But
I
just on
don't
principle, she is so right on
on
principle.
principle.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
I'm sorry.
I know it's amazing to think about that now. I took it for granted so many years. And now I look back and go, wow, what an amazing woman she was. She also was very big on having conversations with the patient, not just going in there and saying, you need X, Y, and Z. It was more of a conversation. So she mentored Dr. Lisa Bruce. Dr. Lisa Bruce was supposed to be an associate. They only lasted here a few years, but their relationship was so good that Dr. Hilda Lee and Dr. Lee ended up with cancer. And at that time, she decided, I'm going to go into early retirement. There's this great associate. Let me pour into her and she can take over the practice, which she did. Dr. Lisa Bruce, I think she had owned it about 6 years when I became an associate. She was used to bringing in associates for 3-year contracts. They would work their 3 years and then they would go and start their own practice. That was a pretty normal model for that time. If you didn't start your own practice, you worked for someone 2 to 3 years, built your finances up, and then you started your own practice. You had a question.
Did she typically hire female dentists?
No,
Or did
she actually, well, she had one male dentist. She did favor when I interviewed with her. We were all females that interviewed for the position. There are several things that she did that created such a great associateship that she really set me on a path to partnership and ownership that I think are just amazing lessons for the dentist out there that's looking for a partner or someone to buy their practice, or the associate that's unsure of their path and what they're going to do, because times are different now. But anyway, back to the whole conversation of it being female owned. Dr. Bruce, she wasn't ready to retire. We just were so good together, and she knew that if she didn't create some kind of path to partnership, then I would be going somewhere else. And so she created that, and now here I am. And
So,
eventually looking for my associate to sell it to.
so you had a 3-year contract
Correct.
to work because that's what the standard was for this practice. At what point did you think, I want to be here? Or was there a change of thinking of, okay, short-term associate, move on to something else, or let's make this work on a different business level?
I am so glad you asked that question, Sonny, because this is such an important lesson for the associate. I came in here day one as this is my practice. I
Well,
don't know.
That helps the associateship tremendously. But
It
anyway,
does. It does. I don't own it. I'm going to act not in an egotistical way at all. I'm going to care as much as the owner does. And I think that was a very early key to the success in our partnership. Is she had associateships that were here doing their time and doing it fine, but they didn't give a little more. I was here. If I needed to stay late, I stayed late. If I needed to take on task from her to lighten up her burden, I did that. I wanted to know the business side. You know how little business side we get into dental school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness, give me all the business knowledge you can. And she was willing to do that. But I was the first associate that actually took her up on that offer. So for the associate that's out there wanting more where you are, you've got to act like you want more.
So the example would be if you leave the building and there's a light left on behind you, if you're an associate who's moving on, the light stays on. If you're an
Absolutely.
associate who's the owner, walks back and turns that light off.
Absolutely.
You know, something as simple as that. But now you're talking about the business aspect. So to me, what you're demonstrating is a clear cut heart and desire to be an owner, because you're
Absolutely.
starting with an owner's framework. Because, and now I'm sure that you said that this is the first time that she recognizes that. So in your 3-year contract, after 6 months or a year, does she sit down with you and say, hey, let's move this towards an ownership?
Yeah. It was year 2 because I had the 3-year contract. She did sit me down and she said, okay, this relationship's working out great. I know that you want more. And I said, absolutely. I will not stay here as an associate because I
That's
also knew.
clear, but that's a crystal clear point. You're not giving mixed signals.
Right.
So you are who you are. I'm practicing like I'm an owner. I intend to be an owner. I am not going to be here as an associate. That's not my career. That's really an unspoken thing, I think, in a lot of working relationships. Because
I
too many people are afraid to have that conversation.
Absolutely. And you need to have that conversation
Have to.
because sometimes the owner dentist does want to invest in you and they don't know. They don't know. They think you do want to start your own shingle somewhere. So they're moving on thinking, who's my next associate? So it's very important to have that communication. And so we sat down and she said, I would love to look into some type of partnership. Now she knew where she was in her career was not near retirement at that time. She was with Kane Waters and they were not telling her to enter into a partnership at that time. So she was very clear to me, it's not going to be a 50-50 partnership. It's not going to be a 51-49. It's
Right.
going to be stages, but let's get together, map out those stages so we both are clear in our communication and we're on the same path together.
So this
And
is a year before the finish of
absolutely.
your contract. So that's important as well. It's not the 3 years are done, right? And you're not, because if you're at the end of that 3rd year and you don't have something, as you said, I'm not going to be an associate here forever.
Right.
You've got to be looking on for part B in your life, right? Or
Right.
plan B. So that's really clear. So that's why you set the stage for success on so many levels. Number one, how you approached working there. Number two, communicating clearly. I bet you're dynamite communicating with your patients because there ain't no gray area here.
Right.
This is what's going to happen. What does that now look like in the 3rd year? Do you renegotiate the 3rd year contract? What does it look like? Take us through that step now.
So Kane Waters was great and they were very integral in putting our contract together, but it was basically if we don't come to some agreement by the end of the associateship, they had a contract in place where I would, if we both agree, both parties agreed, we continued on the associateship path until we could finalize our partnership contract.
So like a month-to-month lease almost, that's what you're saying.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so fortunately, we actually got to the partnership phase before that happened. And so we were able to,
How did I know that?
you
I
know,
don't know you very long, but I'm gonna tell you, it's clear. Thank you.
and we did. We came, and there was very little. It was like I've always heard when you buy a house, the seller has to feel like they're giving up a little, and the buyer has to feel like they're giving up a little.
Every time. Those are successful.
Same thing here. And so there was a little bit of back and forth, but not a lot at all. And again, it's because we communicated so clearly and we knew the path afterwards. In other words, she's going to buy this piece, but we're not going to just have that mapped out. Let's go ahead and map out the other piece. Even though that wasn't set in stone, because as through the years, practices change, the models change. So there was some flexibility in renegotiating some of those things, but we still both knew the path.
You got to at least, the elephant in the room is that you both have a inner core fiber and you have an inner philosophy that are in sync.
Yes.
The other stuff are details. Just like in your practice, there's come back to your core values. You come back to your core agreements between each other and your assimilation practice wise. The rest of the stuff can be worked out.
Bingo.
That's my feeling.
And Sonny, I want to say, Dr. Bruce, I thought about this a lot before we talked, and there were really 4 things that I think she did that's really set us both up for success in this transition.
Beautiful.
The first was her mentorship. So immediately she set up weekly meetings. So every Tuesday during lunch, we would meet and we would go over anything from complex treatment plans. We went over all new patients together. Now, at that time, she was seeing all new patients, but she would sit down with me, go through the treatment plan. We would, she would actually introduce me to the patients when they came in as another doctor in the practice that they may be seeing. And so when I would see a new patient, it didn't feel like a stranger to me. So she set me up for success in that way, every way she could. If we didn't have a lot of patient care to talk about, she'd go over business numbers. She would help me, mentor me in those ways. So that was,
Just the discipline of setting up that weekly meeting for a
yes,
busy dental office, who always the excuse is always life gets in the way.
yeah,
No, if it's important to you, you'll do it.
that's so
So it
true.
was important to her and it was important to you. That's huge.
Every Tuesday lunch in her office. That's how we did it. And another thing with that mentorship was, I'll get to that in a minute, but local CE, we would go to CE together. We'd talk about it afterwards. That was an important part of her training me up. And there were so many cases where we would be in here with articulators and she would be showing me, this is a complex case. Let me show you why. This is how you open the bite. This is a collapsed bite, all the different things. And so that was very important to her. And that set me up for success, even knowing that I could leave in 3 years. Those meetings set me up for success no matter where I went. And
She
so
wanted to give you the recipe. Number two, so the mentorship.
number 2 was she invested in CE for me. And when I mean she invested in CE, she didn't just give me a stipend and say, you've got so many bucks to use a year. First year out of dental school, it gives me chills to think about this, Sonny. First year out of dental school, she sent me to Pankey. Now, Pankey at that time, and to me, is still the premier dental education, postdoctorate dental education facility. I can get teary eyed talking about Pankey because they did so much for me in setting my path. And the fact that she was willing to send me to Pankey to learn philosophy of care and
And that
really,
early in your practice, she
and
said.
that early in my practice, first year, most of the time you're just worried about, can I get that topper on the tooth? You're not
Right.
even worried about philosophy of care, but
How do
she
I
knew
stop the
this
bleeding?
was, yeah, exactly. Those are your worries. She invested early in me in CE, and that was very important. And then we would go to Seattle to a spear course. She would fly me with her. It was that important to her. But I will tell you, she had offered that to her other associates and they didn't do it. They didn't
That
take
was
her.
going to be my question. Did she offer it to other people?
That's that seems crazy to me, but I will tell you, I had bought a practice. I sold it last year, but a couple of doctors came up to me and they were retiring and they're like, we can't sell to a DSO. And I have really good systems in place. And I had thought about buying a practice. I'll just admit I was way over my head. It was an insurance practice. I know nothing. I've been doing fee for service for 26 years, but I did hire a good office manager that knew insurance. And I had an associate in there, great dentist, but he had a stipend and never used it for CE, never used it. I don't understand that, grow yourself. But that was a key to knowing that associate. So if you are in a place of ownership and you're looking for that ideal associateship, if they're not willing to invest in themselves with your dollars, that's a key that probably you need to move on from that relationship.
Yeah, hit it and quit it.
Absolutely. The third thing I want to say that is so different in our partnership associateship is she truly treated me as an equal with patients. This gets a little tough because let's face it,
Because patients don't recognize that right away.
they,
One's a senior dentist, one's a junior dentist, right?
they don't. And we're dentists, we're a little egotistical. We can be. We've worked hard. So when patients came into practice as a new patient, she would bring me into the room and say, hey, this is Dr. Sonya Wintzell. I want you to meet her. You may be seeing her for some of your treatment. Existing patients were seeing first come, first serve. So it was basically based on our schedule and the patient's schedule on what doctor they were scheduled with. So there was never this kind of internal competition for patients. I think that's amazing because I still to this day see the phone ring and the office manager say, which doctor would you like to be scheduled with? I think that is a negative because that sets this tone that there is a difference between the doctors. Our business team never did that. Now, we had a few patients that would request her. We get that. And over the years, we had patients likely that would request me, but
Yeah, I
we
would
really
hope so.
tried to minimize that. We really wanted it to be. Now, if I started a case, I would finish the case. But for your bread and butter dentistry, I might do a crown on Mrs. Jones today, and in 6 months, she might do a filling on Mrs. Jones. That's how we worked it. But we were in alignment with so much of our what we did because of these meetings she established early on.
Yeah, you calibrated, I think is what they call it, right?
That's it. That's the word for it, Sonny.
Yeah, I
And
learned that. I learned that. I never do that word. Because we got 7 doctors, right, in our practice. So
you get it.
how do you do it? We use a lot like texting. Here's an X-ray. What do you guys see? What do you treatment plan? This is what I got. What do you got? And because I don't want to see a patient on hygiene recall and diagnose 5 interproximal lesions where a dentist wants to watch 5 interproximal lesions. I want to make sure we're dialed on this and people are getting the same message from us. But you also attended and did a lot of training together. So you're in simpatico, I think that's the right word, together on the core philosophy of how you're going to practice dentistry.
Absolutely. That was
That's
so
huge.
important.
Mhm.
And we actually, our assistants, we rotated. She had an associate years ago that took half of her staff when she opened up a new business. That taught her that if I keep that doctor with the same assistants every time, they get connected to that assistant. And so we actually rotated. And so the assistants she used, I used. And so that helped a lot too, because that built the assistants' confidence in me also.
Mhm.
And early on, those assistants were training me. I love that they were training me. They were like, here, you need to use this. This is what
Yep.
Dr. uses.
That's what
And
I tell our docs, the same thing. Yep.
I did not bat an eye. Like, okay, if it helped make me better, then let's do it. So that was a biggie. And my fourth thing that Dr. Bruce did early on was that pathway to ownership. She saw early on, if I don't create something that gives her teeth in the game, she's gone.
But I'm going to give kudos to you a little bit here. If you don't show your side a little bit, then maybe that number 4 doesn't happen as easily.
Absolutely. That's very true. That's very true. So for that doctor that's wanting to sell their practice to that associate, if you find one that you think's a gem, you need to have that conversation early. This is working out. This is looking good. How do you feel? Do you like where you are? Would you like us to create? Because
Okay.
it's different now.
Mhm.
Banks are not loaning money like they used to. When I got out of dental school, I just had to show them that doctorate degree. Let's face it, it's not that way anymore. If you're really wanting to buy a practice, you've got to either save for years to get some money in the bank, but with student debt so big right now, that's almost impossible. If you can partner with someone like myself, I'm in my 50s. I love dentistry. I do not have a retirement date right now because I truly am having so much fun. I just don't have that date. But I also am wise enough to know that I need to start having my eyes open for that potential person that does what I did, which is let's let you buy a percentage now, work a few years, then buy another percentage. Look for those opportunities out there because they're out there. And the doctors that are getting close to retiring, that is an option for you. You just got to create that option. You don't have to go to the DSO route. If you want to go, I know this isn't that conversation, but if you want to go that route,
You
another
don't have to.
option.
You don't
You
have to.
don't have to.
I want to ask you a question. Put yourself in someone else's shoes now, okay? You're in an associateship and you are the owner. Now you're the owner and you have an associate with you. Okay, so you're not the same practice that you're in. It's not as routine set up with the contracts and stuff. You have an associate, you want to have that conversation with them about ownership, etc. The other person may or may not be forthcoming. So they may or may not have come to their own realization about what happens. How do you handle that scenario with that doctor that gets them to where you were, which was clearly, definitively on X, right?
I,
And I'm not going to be Y.
right.
So how do you have that conversation so that you can get unbridled honesty, right? Unfiltered honesty. How can you get to that with some people? Because it's
Well,
hard.
that's interesting that you bring that up because I mentioned I sold the other practice, and early on, the associate was supposed to buy it.
Which
And
makes sense. That the whole
and
scenario makes sense. Yeah.
exactly. And there were little red flags along the way that may not be happening. So I had to start looking out at outside sources to sell because it was an honesty issue there. And I was very honest in my relationship. And I felt like there was a little bit held back. Now, part of that was probably fear that I was going to just fire him and he would be out of job. I don't know. I don't know where that came from, but I think it's important to understand what maybe their barriers are to ownership early on. Is it fear of, I don't know how to run a business? Then,
Right.
if so, spend some time with that associate going over business details. You may find out in that time with them, they're not a business owner. They're not. And in that situation, then, okay, we need to move on. It really is about what you put into the associate. You've got to spend the time with them. Maybe it's fear of financing. To me, that's the easiest thing to work through. Are you worried about financing? If it's financing, let's talk with someone like Kane Waters that's used to putting together packages that look different. And Kane Waters is not the only group that does that. There's
Yeah, yeah,
other.
yeah.
Look to someone that can sit there and put together different scenarios where you can lay it out to the associate and say, okay, you buy 10%. It doesn't have to be 25%, but that gives you something to hang on to. So it's really about having those conversations. What are the barriers? Is it just fear? I've been scared for 26 years. There's not a day that I don't go, oh my word, what's going to happen today? But in the end, it's been very successful and very rewarding. So it's been worth every day of that. I hope I answered your question there,
That was
Sonny.
great. So can you just bring us to today? You bought in parts. Over how long now is Dr. Bruce out of the practice?
She's been out now for 5 years. She worked part time for a couple of years. She worked 2 days a week. At that time, I was only working 3 days a week, and I was working one day working on systems at the other practice. I never did any dentistry over there, but I would go in there, train the team, just trying to create the systems that we have here that's been successful over there. Timing was interesting. I was feeling like maybe the associate needed to buy it, or I needed to get another associate in. The energy was just off over there. And Dr. Bruce's father got ill. And she said, you know what? I know I told you 2 more years. I think I need to go ahead and retire. So I said, okay, so I started working back here, my normal 4 days a week. And then I brought on an associate that comes and helps me out a day a week. So
So
I
your purchase, right? So you purchased what, 20%? And then just walk me
oh, that
through
part
the
of it.
progression part
Yes.
now.
So we started with 25%. And no real estate involved at that time. It was 25% of the practice. The next was 51.49.
How over what time period? Is that over another 2 or 3?
That was probably, it may have been 5 years. It
Okay.
was a little bit of time because remember at that time, Dr. Bruce was still relatively young and not ready to retire.
So after 3 years, you now are purchasing that 25%.
25%, correct.
So now over the next 5 years, your stages are okay. So from five, so now you're at 8 years in, you're
Right.
a majority owner. And is that plan to stay, or is then there the next 25%, or how does that look going on?
No, and then at that point, it was we stay that way until Dr. Bruce wants to retire, and then you buy her out when she's getting close to retirement. So there was a point where she went, I'm going to retire in the next 5 years. And so she became my associate, which is so odd to say out loud, but she was my associate for around 5 years.
But remember your associate job, because you thought of it as an owner,
Right.
it just changes. So you still have a partner in practice, but not on paper.
And I
Now,
do
let
say
me
Kane
pick up.
Waters did set us up for when I owned 25%, it was in the contract that decisions about the business were 50-50. That was in the contract. And that was important.
So let me ask you this now. As someone who's bought 25%, what changed in your responsibilities for the business? Do you now take over hiring and firing? Do you now take over the retirement account? Because this is a situation I'm facing with a little bit with some of my partners. So talk about what that looked like.
Absolutely. We had a meeting. We sat down with all the responsibilities from the business side that Dr. Bruce had. And she went through them and which ones are you comfortable with from what we've already trained on? And we just marked them off. And we came up with this sheet that was about 50-50. Not only did we come up with this sheet, we posted it. So where team members, if they had a question, they came to the right doctor based on that sheet because they were so used to going to Dr. Bruce.
Otherwise, everything's still going to go to her anyway. So
And
you
I
now have
take that
bought in
burden
as a partnership, yeah, and you're not doing anything differently.
exactly, but I'm getting some rewards from it. So
Right. Exactly.
you had to make it fair for her and take some of that burden, but it also helped teach me, but it also made her aware the things on her list were things I still needed to be trained on. So that gave us also our list of what else do we need to spend some time on mentoring Dr. Wintzell on to get her trained up for full ownership.
So when did you brought your associate in with Dr. Bruce retiring? Been with you how long?
She's been with me for 3 years now.
Do you have the 3-year contract with her?
We actually have, interesting enough, she has her own practice here in town, across town, that she's still trying to build. It's an interesting scenario that she's learning. She's not fee for service at her practice. So and I told her, you're going to learn a lot about fee for service here. And she's been dropping contracts the past 3 years. I've been very proud of her for that. And I don't know if she's the one at this point. We haven't really had that conversation, and I don't know if she's even interested. But what I do know is I'm not seeing it as time wasted. I'm at that point in my career where I want to give back to the career. And I love one of the reasons I bought the other practice is I heard so many associates talk about how miserable they were. And I went, wait, I love my career.
I could change the narrative. Yeah.
I hate that all these associates hate dentistry. This is not how it's supposed to be. So I'm seeing it as good time. I'm investing in her and helping her build her career. And who knows what it may turn into in a few years.
All right. Last question I got to ask you. I think you've covered a bunch of these things, but I want to ask you. You have in front of you a young dentist who's looking at buying a practice, buying into a practice or buying a practice, and they have trepidations about being an owner.
Yeah.
What's your words of wisdom to them?
Oh, just do it. Do it. Do it. You will. I mean,
Wait, Nike, there it is.
Do it. Do it. Let me tell you, oh my gosh, the night I signed that loan, that was a big loan, even by today's standards. Because remember, this is a 50-year practice, okay? It was a fee-for-service practice. It was a big loan. And I don't think I slept 1 minute that night. It was.
For this feeling I had.
Oh, my word. Yes, it is very scary. It has been so worth it. It's not just, it is about doing the dentistry, but it's really about my philosophy of care is so set in stone in my heart. It's who I am. It's who my team is. I cannot imagine working in an environment where that philosophy is not the same. And I think if you want long-term happiness in this career, which I'm hearing so many that don't have, you've got to get to the core of what kind of care do you want to deliver every day? Because that's where your happiness is going to come from. You can see I'm passionate about this. That's where your happiness is going to come from. And then you've got to get into a practice that has that. And sometimes that means creating your own practice that has that. And that is so important. You're going to be a success in that manner. You take care of the patients, the business is going to take care of itself. Take care of your team. Oh my goodness, I'm so tired of the negativity on see on Facebook about team. Maybe the dentists need to look at themselves. There's lots of team issues, okay? Team is hard. Patients are hard. I'm not saying that. but take care of your team. They're going to take care of you. And if you own your own practice, you can do those things and you can create leaders. And there's so much fulfillment in my own team and their self-satisfaction. I can't press that enough about discovering what you want to do and be, and write that narrative down. I've got it written down on my computer and I read it every now and then and go, oh my gosh, it's so good. Stick with that and create that environment and you will be a success. And then if you want to work 3 days a week, you can work 3 days a week. You can own your hours. That's a Panky thing. Early on, they said, set what your ideal schedule is. I've done that every year. I evaluate it and I change my schedule to my ideal schedule. And guess what? Patients stay. They stay. They don't leave because your hours change. Create that.
I'll tell you one thing that comes out loud and clear, your passion. And I could feel your emotions as you were talking about that last subject about your team, the leadership, developing and giving. Like you described as pouring out of yourself. I can hear the emotion, and anybody who can't hear it is not paying attention. But it's so true. Listen, I appreciate your time. I absolutely love talking to you. I don't go south very often, but if I do, I'm going to have to stop in Huntsville, Alabama, see you guys and see what's happening down there. This is great.
We would love it. Huntsville's a great city to visit. It's growing. It's a tech town. It's wonderful. So
listen, they're lucky to have.
Anybody can call me up, then come into my office. I'd love to meet them.
Okay, put that out there, please. How can people reach you, please, Sonya?
So I don't mind giving out my email. It's drswintzell@yahoo.com. It's very simple there. So
Wintzell spelled Wintvell.
Correct.
Dr. S. Wintzell.
Wintzell@yahoo.com. That's my personal email, and I'd love to hear from you. If you've got questions, send them my way.
I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a wonderful Easter or whatever you celebrate down there. And
Me too. We're ready for Easter. Absolutely. You have a great day, Sonny.
You too. Thanks.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live events.